Good morning, folks. It's Wednesday, December 5th, 2012. I'm here with my dog, professional dog, Duke Rennie, right here at the world headquarters of RenmanMusicandBusiness.com. How you doing over there, Duke? Give him a little inspiration there. See if we can wake his ass up. What? Duke, how we doing there, Duke? Duke? It's just you and me today, big boy. All right. All right, folks. Well, I want to thank all you people for joining us today. My name is Steve Rennie, as I mentioned. I'm the Renman, and this is our little program called This is Renman Live. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we get together right here at the world headquarters for a little discussion about the music business. And I'm happy to report that today it's very sunny out. Thank you, George and the Beatles. Let's love them. Better turn it off before somebody sues us, huh? But anyway, it is a sunny day, and I'm happy about that. So I want to thank you all for joining us again. Today, we're going to have part two of our interview with RCA Records president Tom Corson, who's been a lifelong buddy of mine in the music business. He's one of the most respected guys in the music business. Started with a little indie label and is now running one of the big majors and has a lot of great insight and experience to share. And we're going to be sharing a lot of that with you again today. Part of what we're trying to do here with this website and the web show is to teach people a little bit about this wacky music business. If you go to our website, RenmanMB.com, you'll see there's all kinds of great content there. If you click on the videos link, you'll see there's some videos about the big picture, about how to get your head in the right place. There it is. And there's also a lot of videos on just the nuts and bolts of the business, who does what and why and how that works for you at the end of the day. So today we're going to be spotlighting sound engineers, which is if you're going to be a live band, and you should be thinking about that if you're not. You definitely want to have somebody that can represent your sound to your audience. And so we're going to be talking about sound engineers today. We're also going to do part two of our artist spotlight with a young band called Seven Circle Sunrise from Ohio, right here in the United States of America. We spoke to our friend Vino Xavier last week, but today we're just going to be playing some music. And then finally, we're going to be talking with Christina Palacios as part of our Ask Renman segment. Christina was supposed to join us on Monday, but we got a little sideways. But today she's promised to join us here today. So before we get started with our interview with Tom Corson, Wednesday is scorecard day in the music business. Now, dude, you're not helping us here, okay? Now, just let him out, Joe. It's very cozy here at the Ren World headquarters, folks. For anybody that thinks we're doing this in some slick Hollywood studio, wrong! This is right here in my office, and we have our dog here. He's Duke. He's Duke Rennie. He's always on the lookout for insurgents, and that's probably he was out there ready to go take on the gardener with his blower. What do you think, Joe? Anyway, as I mentioned, Wednesday's kind of scorecard day in the music business. The charts, end on Sunday night. They compile them on Monday and Tuesday, and usually every night at Tuesday, you'll get a call from the reporting folks to tell you what all the chart positions are. And then today, they get announced through Billboard.com. And so I want to give you some of the highlights of this week here. Alicia Keys, love Alicia Keys, says here she earns her 5th #1 album on Billboard Top 200. She's a great songwriter, great performer, has been at it a while, and this is her 5th time as a #1 album. This one sold 159,000 records, which is kind of interesting because it's great to have a #1 record, but the last record she put out was #2. And that was 417,000 units. Her previous #1 record was 196,000 records. So this one is actually a little bit less than that, I think, which speaks to the general state of the record business. Still pretty good stuff to be #1, Alicia. So I would say that you really are a girl on fire, and I love what you guys are doing. So there's #1 this week. A couple other things on the charts this week. Let's see, let me go through some of the highlights here. It says, the new Billboard 200 reflects the week after Thanksgiving holiday sales, which we just talked about. And this week, album volume fell by 23%, which is typically the case after Thanksgiving. Everybody kind of gets on a binge of shopping, and then they all sober up and start adding up the damage. And at least for a week, sanity prevails. So that our album sales are down a bit. It says, for example, in the top 100 this week, only 13 albums posted gain. That's not very good. Scott McCreery's Christmas with Scooty McCreery leaps 21 to 12. power of TV there. Next week, we'll start to see a little bit of an uptick. So some of the other highlights on the chart this week. Taylor Swift steady at number 2, 137,000. One Direction slips 3 to 4. Philip Phillips, another American Idol graduate or participant, moves 4 to 5. Rihanna's album goes to number 6. Michael Bublé, Christmas records, they always sell, man. You got a Christmas record, bang, it's guaranteed. Michael Bublé rebounds 16 to 7 on the chart. Lady Antebellum is number 8. Blake Shelton, number 9, and Kid Rock is in there at number 10, which goes to show you rock is not totally dead yet. It's lying in waiting. Overall sales this past week, down 23%, 7.6 million, 22 million downloads last week. So those are the chart positions this week. There was another interesting story on Billboard this week. In fact, the cover of the old school physical version. It's called Women in Music on Billboard. There's the lovely Katy Perry, who is the Woman of the Year. There were a number of great people in there, ladies that I've actually had a chance to work with over the years. And a great bunch of folks, in fact. So a couple of them I wanted to talk about. Julie Greenwald, who's the president and chairman of Atlantic Records, has been, I think, the number 1 woman in rock or woman in music for better part of 3 years now, I think. And that's a pretty impressive thing when you think about it, because the truth of the matter is nobody would like to see it, but for years the music business was kind of the old boys club. And Julie has crashed into that old boy club in a big way. Atlantic has been one of the success stories in the music business, continue to be. And she has done an amazing job. Jody Gerson I've had a chance to work with. She's number 2 on the Women in Music. She works at an EMI Music Publishing, and I actually sent her a note the other day asking her to come on the show and talk about music publishing, but more importantly, to talk about her career in the music business, because I think it's a great inspiration for other women out there that are looking to make an impact in the music. And finally, my friend Leah Volek. There's quite a few on this list I've worked with, but Leah Volek, who I've worked with, she is the president of Sony Pictures Music, where they put music into all of the big films, and she's worked with us on Incubus. Terrific lady. I sent a note to her as well, so I don't have her Twitter handle for either Julie or Jody or Leah, but help me lobby. Let's get those ladies on the show to talk about what they've been doing and how they managed to fuck the gatekeepers, and get where they are today. And you know what? I'm not talking about the other wacky shit. So anyway, all right, that's the news today. Tom Corson is a good friend of mine. He's been a leader in the industry for the better part of 30 years. Started at a small independent label, IRS Records, which was part of A&M Records. He's had a fabulous bit of experience, a great ride in the music business, and he shared a lot of great thoughts with me in an interview a couple weeks back when he was out here for the American Music Awards. And so today I want to start off with a continuation of our segment with Tom. And the first video we're going to play, the first bit of the interview today, we talked a lot, and there's a lot of discussion out there in the music business about the notion of major labels versus indies and what each of them add to the equation. Tom has worked on both sides of it, and we talked about that issue. So in this first segment we're going to play today, let's take a look at that. We'll hear all his comments about indies versus majors, some great stuff in there, and then we'll come back and talk about our artist spotlight. Take it away. A question that everybody wants to know is, how does a label like RCA Records go out and sign bands? How do I get the attention of labels? What are they looking for? And in fact, are they even signing as many bands as they used to?
Yeah, now labels aren't signing as many bands as they used to. They used to have anywhere from 25 to 50% more artists on the roster. But because, again, you know more, you're taking less shots because you have a higher kind of bar before you sign things. Yeah, it is challenging to get and competitive to get the attention of any label, and that is the beauty of what can happen online, and so if you create some piece of content, or you put up a song, or you do a show and build a community around your group or your artists, then generally you will get noticed. But most importantly, and yeah, it's nice to have the right lawyer, it's nice to have the right manager, it's good to have a friend, et cetera, who knows somebody at a record label that might be a decision maker, have access to that person. But the bottom line is this: make great music. you'll get noticed. You will.
That much hasn't changed at all, has it? I say it to people all the time. I say you can take all the technology in the world, you can take all of the greatest brains at Google and all these tech conferences that I've gone to, and they can all talk about these great apps that are solving problems in the music business, perceived or otherwise. But you still can't get a computer to reach in and get something out of a creative person that touches them in some way. That one is yet to be discovered in a computer, I find.
So true.
Another question here that you touched on, managers. There was a great story I read, and it was an online supplement to a Berkeley online school of music class that talked about the 10 great truths of the music business. Now, you and I could do probably an hour or two of whether there are 10 truths in the music business, but this article reckoned that one of the truths of the business is that artists and their managers are more important than ever, particularly in the management role. How do you guys view the role of a manager in the process of breaking a band? How important is that?
Well, it's critical. It's really, the artist is in the best case scenario. We're partners, you know, and the manager is critical in that area, both for good and for lack of good, you know, because we've all worked with bad managers or inexperienced managers who won't listen and won't partner up with you. We have a lot to offer, you know, and yes, they probably know the artist better than we do, and they know what pushes the buttons, and they might even know the fan base better than we do. But that process, you've got to communicate it. And so when you're working with somebody like yourself or some of the other great managers in the business, it's just smooth. It's just much smoother. And so even when you have issues, you know, you're working towards a solution, and it takes the drama out of it. And then more so than ever, and I think that article is probably fairly accurate, the way the dynamic works and everything in the orbit around an artist now is less centric on what the record company can do, even though that's critical and we have a vital role. But, you know, in terms of all sort of branding and the partnership opportunities and et cetera, and we provide some of those, but a very good manager can go out and create those. But I don't really know that it's more important than ever before. I just think that, you know, there's more opportunity than ever before, because there is enough do-it-yourself opportunity these days, and with the right manager who can put together that stuff, the enlightened manager can make more of an impact.
We touched on earlier that notion of the indie versus the major label, and I think for lots of people out there, they have this kind of romantic fairy tale version of we want to be indie. I found it even in my day gig with Incubus that there's this, wow, we're going to finally be indie. But there's some reality. What does a major label bring to the equation that most indies can't bring to the equation?
It's a great question. And having started at indies, at IRS and A&M, I'm a very fond, you know, place in my heart for indies. But, you know, one of the critical things is aside from scale, and scale has a lot of definitions to what makes up that scale, is radio promotion. And it's still the single biggest factor in driving sales and awareness of an artist. And so, you know, we have big promotion staffs. You know, we hit every format. We know how to get to work with those big, you know, those big radio chains, the Cumulus and the Clear Channel and the Cox and so forth. And so, you know, that's very, very difficult and expensive to do if you're doing it on your own. And it's no accident that the two of the biggest, if not most successful indies are run by radio promotion guys in Glassnote and Big Machine. Those guys ran radio promotion departments, you know, so they, well, by definition, yes, they're indies. They're independent. They're not owned by majors. They have distribution through independents, whether you're Glassnote, but through a major when you're Big Machine. But those guys are old radio promotion vets. They know exactly where the money is, and so. But that's really what a major label, one of the major aspects of what a major label does for a band.
Yeah, it's why I tell a lot of artists that when you're out here doing things on your own, because I've got this little mantra, fuck the gatekeepers, dream it, do it, which is really not so much to challenge everybody, but it's a battle cry to take things in your own hand. But I try to tell people that what you're really doing is prepping, you're fine-tuning your act, as it were, and preparing for the day that you get called up to the bigs. Because as you pointed out earlier, if you're going to succeed at the biggest levels, that's not a street fight. That's a battle royale. Yeah. And that's not, you know, a bunch of guerrillas don't win that war. They might secure the battlefield, but you better have some big stuff to be bringing in at the appropriate moment. All right, some great advice there from my good friend Tom Corson. Folks, if you watched any of the broadcasts and you've watched any of the videos that we have on our YouTube channel, there are some common themes that start to play out. And one of them is this, with all the technology, with all the great things you can do out there, making great music is at the core of the music business. That's why they call it the music business. And every person I've talked to that does this for a living knows that to be the case. So while you're working on all kinds of things like promoting your band and thinking about album covers and all the other kind of very important stuff, keep making music, folks, because that's what it's all about. Now, this is about the shyest bunch. What do we got? I see we got a little growing crowd here today. But you know what? I got to be honest with you, folks. I'm a little disappointed, to be honest with you. It's great that you come back. It's great that you have enthusiasm. But got to be the shyest bunch I've ever seen in my life. Have you seen, we're giving away free stuff here, free advice. And today, we're going to try to give it away again. We're trying to give away a free, limited edition Fuck the Gatekeeper t-shirt. So all you need to do is call in on our little RenmanMB hotline. It's 310-469-9067. We just want to know somebody's out there watching. We're very lonely in here at RenmanMB, but you get a free Fuck the Gatekeeper t-shirt. All you got to do is call in and ask a question. So presumably you're watching the show because something's on your mind. So hopefully one of these days somebody will call in so we don't feel like the loneliest guys in rock. A while back, speaking of our YouTube page and our live broadcast, you can check out all our live broadcasts, by the way, on our live stream channel and all our videos on YouTube. Got the live stream? There it is, live stream. A while back, we did a video. Uh-oh, is that a phone call? Joe? Uh-oh, I'll press on here for a second. We did a bit with a gal by the name of Camille Spaulding, who had just started in the business, and I reckon that the first, 10, 12 guests we had probably had 400 years of experience in the business. Camille had about 22 days, I think. Anyway, she worked in the mailroom, which is called Music Central if you're in the music department, so she doesn't really actually deliver mail. But she's now moved out of the Music Central and is working a desk, I understand. So hopefully you're not watching, Camille, so you don't get in trouble. But congratulations on your promotion. One visit on the couch here, bang, all the way to the top. We don't have a mailroom here at RenmanMusicandBusiness.com, but we do get mail. And today I thought it was interesting. We got our invite. Can you get up tight on that? There you go. Of our 55th annual Grammy Awards invite. And for all you folks that watch on TV, I can tell you that that's not a bad seat. Don't have to worry about parking, and you don't have to pay for it. So if you ever wondered, it's going to be February 10th, 2013, by the way, folks, at the LA. Where is it at? It's at the Nokia Theater Live. No, it's at the Staples Center. 16,000, very intimate affair. If you ever wonder what it costs to go to the Grammys, even if you're a member of the Academy, Platinum member, $1,000. That will get you VIP load level seating, pre-telecast, in the telecast admission only, which that means you paid $1,000, but you won't be partying with any of the winners, that's for sure. So, maybe you'd like to join me at the Grammys this year. I mean, you can be my date, but I'm going to make you pay the $1,000. Anyway, there's our mail for today. Each week, we'd like to spotlight a young artist that we believe is doing something great, making some great music and taking things into their own hands and trying to fuck the gatekeepers and make something happen. We met a band called Seven Circle Sunrise, a gentleman by the name of Xavier from the band. Vino Xavier, excuse me. I should just remember Vino, like wine. Vino came by the office here, recorded a couple tracks for us. We had a chance to talk to him on Monday, so if you want to check that out, you'll go to our live stream mail. Anyway, we want to play you the second song that they played for us. This is from a band called Seven Circle Sunrise. Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, Wide Open.
All right, this is a song that's not on the record. It's called Wide Open. It's 3 a.m. in the morning. I wish I would have missed that call. What I heard on the other end won't let me sleep at all. But I won't give you the pleasure of seeing me down, 'cause you couldn't stand the thought sticking around. But maybe tomorrow I'll forgive, just not today. Sometimes I wonder if there's really a heaven, a place where the old and the new begin. I'm every bit as cold as you. I'm every bit as cold as today. You had to go and cut me wide open. Should I go visit your mother? Does she need a familiar face? You've left me no directions to deal with this change. But you made good on the promise you made. You took all of my secrets to the grave. Maybe tomorrow I'll forgive, just not today. Sometimes I wonder if there's really a heaven, a place where the old and the new begin. I'm every bit as cold as you. I'm every bit as cold as today. You had to go and cut me wide open. I'm wide open. Where's that voice again? That sound I can't forget. Where did it go? Sometimes I wonder if there's really a heaven, a place where the old and the new begin. I'm every bit as cold as you. I'm every bit as cold as today. You had to go and cut me wide open. You had to go and cut me wide open. You had to go and cut me wide open.
Vino Xavier, Seven Circle Sunrise, the pride of Ohio. Thanks for helping us out there, Vino. Good luck to all you guys. Great band, big rock band, love them. Start a band, write a song, start dreaming big, and ultimately you'll be talking about signing a record deal with somebody, whether it's an indie, whether it's a major, or something in between. It's a whole process getting signed to a label. It doesn't happen in a minute. It doesn't happen at the drop of a hat. It's a whole courting process that goes on. And my friend Tom Corson has been a part of it for years. I've been a part of it myself as well. And so I understand it. But lots of folks out there send me notes asking about how do I get signed to a label? What does it take to get their attention and so forth? So in this next segment with my friend Tom Corson, he's going to give you some great advice and insight into how that whole process works. And I think whether you're signing to an indie or a major, I think that the fundamentals of it stay the same. So for all you folks that are dreaming about signing a record deal, I want you to get your pencils out, get a piece of paper, and take some notes here. We'll be doing a little quiz at the end. It's, ladies and gentlemen, part 2 for today. Tom Corson talking about the whole courtship of getting signed to a label. Take it away. Getting signed to a major label. Now, you and I both know that for years artists thought all I got to do is get signed to a label, and they thought that was the game, when in fact it was either going to be the start of a great story or the start, in many cases, of a very frustrating process, right? We talked a little bit earlier about what does artists do to attract the attention of a label like RCA. Describe, if you would, the process of an artist going to a major label in terms of the discovery side of it, the deal making side of it, and then ultimately the promotion and release of a record?
Yeah, well, you make a good point. I mean, an artist's career really starts when they get signed to a label, right? But the process, we touched on how you get noticed. I mean that's, you've got to have something special going on, or access. The courting process is very interesting, and what I really boil it down to is if you're a hot artist, and as long as you have more than one label bidding for you, which isn't a necessity, by the way. Some of our, usually the most successful artists, the ones that are sort of kind of sneaking the side door, and then 2 years later, like, shit, what happened? This everybody slept on this. We're blowing up. And you know what? It's and sometimes being quietly over here is better than having the spotlight shined on you too early. But when you're going through that courting process, I encourage artists to ask all the hard questions. There's nothing out of bounds. Asking it in a sensible way, but you've also got to sell yourself. And whatever you're selling, you've got to come in and you've got to know who you are. And then you should get all your expectations out. This is what I want to do. And if somebody's asking you a question, answer it honestly. If you don't know the answer, think about it, because it's probably a pretty good question, because you're getting it from somebody who does this every day. You're doing it for your first time probably, unless you've been in a couple other bands. Even then, you're not that experienced. And so be open to the process. And at the end of the day, what's going to happen, if you're really lucky, is you're going to get a couple of deals that are going to look very similar. Excuse me. And you're going to ask yourself, well, who do I sign to? Who's right to go? Well, I really like that guy at aPpKVg, Steve Rennie. He is amazing. And that guy, Tom Corson, he's cool. But then what you really should think of is like, okay, where are our expectations? Are we in line? Because while somebody may be very charming and funny and really a good salesperson, are they really answering your questions? And 2 years from now, when your record comes out, or 18 months or whatever, how many of those people that are in the room are still going to be there? Is there someone that I can talk to? Someone that's going to call me back? And am I really connected with on some level? And it's very artificial, because the process is really compressed. But get your expectations in line, and then make a decision and go. Once you go, like you said, that's where the real work begins, and you got to go to win.
Yeah, and I'll add one thing to that. When you're looking at those people, I think it's so important that you be able to assess at some kind of gut level whether those people are going to be honest with you in those crucial moments, because inexperience can be a killer in that game, because you get X amount of time, the window of opportunity is there, and if you don't seize that moment, you're going to have some issues. And having people that are honest with you, that can work through sometimes the discomfort of being honest, and say, this is our moment, this is what we need to be thinking about. It's your name on the marquee, but you got to take responsibility. But every bone in my body tells me, let's go here. And I know that with my friends in Incubus, they had a wonderful sense in those moments to trust. And so.
Well, one thing, I did say ask the tough questions. So do some preparation. Ask about the successes, ask about the failures. We all fail. We really wish we all succeeded, because it's not fun for anybody. But ask, why didn't this happen, or whatever. And you know what? Even if you don't really understand yet, because you maybe haven't been far enough along, you'll learn something through that process about the people you're dealing with.
Well, let me ask you something about the deal process. We hear a lot about the 360 deals now. Talk about that. I mean, is that something that you guys are doing with brand new artists? And explain to folks why that's the case today.
Yeah, well, look, it's probably something that should have always, and has on and off through the business, been part of different deals and different companies. Excuse me. But the logic behind it is this, and every deal is slightly different. We pretty much have some sort of 360 investment or relationship with every new artist deal we do. But the thought behind it is, we're really, when you look at the food chain, of agent, manager, lawyer, business manager, artist, label, we're really usually, not always, but we're really usually the only ones putting down any real money. And so, and if you think about, we have a big company to feed, we have a building to heat and light, we have an internet that we got to keep up and running, et cetera, and TVs and so forth. We have so much infrastructure that we put towards us, and so much expertise and access. We're providing access to all these gatekeepers that we're building a brand. And I think and it took this disruption and the fact that we couldn't sell 20 million albums anymore, and 2 million was massive, and so forth and so on. And you think, you know what? And we loaned artists money to go touring, and we never, and who makes a loan and doesn't charge interest?
Yeah.
You know, who doesn't get a piece of an action when they put money down? And so, from that standpoint, it strikes me as very linear and very logical. You know, the fact though that we never were there before in any meaningful way. So, and then the counter to that is, well, what services do you provide? Well, we have an in-house merchandising company, you know, that you can use or not use, you know, and we have a D2C operation that we set up so we can have a direct-to-consumer relationship and cultivate your community and provide them special products, and you can message that community how you see fit, whether it's selling concert tickets or other content. So, you know, there's a lot of infrastructure, and there's a massive investment that we put into an artist, both in making the record and taking the artist to market. So, you know, I think it's only fair that we should share in that to some degree.
Now let me play devil's advocate for a moment, you know, and put my manager's hat on. There will be some people that would argue that the labels, you know, in the crucial moments of defining those early days of the internet, voted to protect the mothership and all the sacred cows, manufacturing, distribution, and so forth, at the expense of serving the consumers in the way that we now know they want to be served. I'm in charge, I'm driving, I'll decide where to go. With respect to touring, how do you guys manage that process? I'm interested to know. When in the record selling side, the record company is always the scorekeeper. They wrote the checks clearly and deserved, you know, some consideration for that. In the old days, they were making so much money that it would be easy to say, well, of course you had enough. But now that it's a different world, how do you manage that part of the 360 side of it when it comes to live attractions? I mean, who settles up? Who's the scorekeeper there? Because as a manager, that's an area of expertise that if you're going to be a successful manager, that's the part you actually get very familiar and intimate with. How does that work between a label and an artist?
Well, I mean, the manager and the business manager are the touch points there. And so, you know, and it just folds into like laying out the strategy, you know, with the artist, and whether that's okay, you know, and we'll be driven by the artist and the manager. We're not going to dictate those terms, you know, we're not. But what we will say is, here's our timeline. How does the touring fit into that? How does this aspect of it? Do you do a radio show instead? Because and what effect does that have on the revenue of the artist and the touring revenue and the merch revenue and so forth?
Has that changed your guys' feeling about doing radio shows? I know as a manager, I probably made a fair share of, I don't want to say enemies, but certainly didn't make a lot of people's day, because it was very clear to me early on that a band was going to generate the bulk of their money touring. So for the same reasons that a program director, a sales manager at a station might have their numbers to hit and their priorities, which means play our show and play it for free and we'll sell the sponsors, I was always very upfront about, I'm responsible to my guys as well, and my job is to make sure we get paid. And this is, while we're happy to have you playing our record, at the end of the day, that's a programming decision. And I'll trust that as long as my client is delivering songs that are worthy of playing, that I'll leave it to you to decide whether that's a program. On the business decision that we play, don't play, that's going to be very sparing. Has it changed the label's point of view now that you now have a vested financial interest in building the live side of an artist's career?
Yeah, I think to some degree, yes. At the end of the day, you know, the bulk of our revenue comes from sales. And so, and we know the biggest driver in that is still radio. So, you know, our agenda is to get radio play. Having said that, though, all artists are not created equal. All dynamic, you know, change depending on the situation. And so you just have to take a very measured view of it. Where, you know, but on that end of it, you know, radio shows, they are what they are, you know, and it's a very clear contract in terms of what's going on there, and you make it on a case-by-case decision. But we're not hard and fast, but there are times when it's actually absolutely the right thing to do.
I think for the smart artists, you figure out which ones are really important, and you try to do them at the right place at the right time, and not knee-jerk them. And with no disrespect to the promotion staff, they have a tendency to want to super serve in ways that aren't always, I'll just say it, always in the artist's best interest, although that typically would be how it's framed. This is what's great for the artist, and I'll say that the artists and the managers and the labels have to really take a long, hard look at what's really in the best interest of the artist, and that's part of that whole give and take process.
You do, and you also have to look at it kind of in kind of department within the business, you know, and whether that's, you know, is this the right thing to do, this TV show and so forth. So you gotta really manage your assets these days because you have scarce resources. So you really got to pick your shots.
All right, good stuff there from my friend Tom Corson. You know, it's funny. You know, we do these interviews, or I do these interviews, and you kind of get a list of questions and kind of have an idea where you want to go. But I will say this, every time I go back and I watch one of these things, you know, I'm just reminded how lucky I am to have friends like Tom that will actually come on a little web show like this with no other reason in mind than to share a little bit of their insight. And so when I watch these interviews, I pick up little pieces that I've forgotten. And there was a great bit in there that Tom talks about and some of our other guests have talked about. And it's this whole notion of failure, and that failure or not being successful right out of the box is so much a part of the music business and in fact is a big part of life. And I think the takeaway for you folks out there that are starting off, whether you're going to be a business person, a musician, is that failure is part of the process in the music business. How you handle that failure and how you turn that into a learning experience is really the key. Because every single person I've had sit on this couch has talked about failing and what they've learned out of it. So obviously you want to try to win, folks, but along the way you're going to take some lumps. My advice is to learn from your mistakes, forget about them very quickly, and promise yourself not to keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again. So we finally had somebody call in, huh, Joe? All right, we had a couple calls here. God, I'm glad to see there's a heart ticking and beating out there. Our friend Dan Steinberg won a T-shirt. Love that, Dan. Dan's got one of the greatest Twitter handles of all time. He's, I believe it's @TheJew, and I'm going to change mine to @TheGoy. If you're Jewish, you'll know what that's all about. Anyway, Dan, I'm happy you won that shirt here. And I see we also got a question from our friends in the Edgar Allan Poets, one of the great names in rock, if you ask me, who wanted to know if it was true you could sell 1,000 singles and show up on the Uncharted chart on Billboard magazines. I think the two things here. One, we'll do a little homework to see exactly what would wind up on the top 100, but I know this. It all depends on the week you come out. There's been records that have sold 40,000 albums and been #1 on the charts. There's been times, you know, Incubus, we had a couple #2 records early in their career that both sold over 300,000 records, and the first #1 record we had was probably, I think, 170,000 units. So it all depends on the week, but I'll come back to you because I don't know, but we're going to find out and come back to you. So every week we do a segment called Ask Renman. One of the reasons I set up this website and this web show was to try to be accessible to people out there that are looking for answers and looking to understand this music business. When I travel with the band, inevitably I'll meet some folks at a show and they'll ask me the same kind of questions that I'm being asked here on our webcast and on our website. But when I answer that question, only one person at a time can benefit from the answer. So we decided to try to make this Ask Renman segment my way of being available to ask some questions and so forth. So on Monday, we had a lady by the name of Christina Palacios who was going to join us on the broadcast. I think we have her today. Do we not, Joe? Yeah. Christina, you there?
Yeah, hi, how are you?
There she is, Christina Palacios. I was a little worried about you, Christina.
I know, right? Finally got through.
Yeah, you know, she sent me a great note, and it was very nice, your note, Christina, basically, you know, humoring me a little bit. You know, about, I'm doing a paper on the music business, but I really want to talk to an audio engineer, not an old dirtbag manager. So, but you cleverly disguised it, Christina.
That I cleverly what?
You cleverly disguised your real intent.
Oh.
So,
you see, I thought I'd bring in the paper, kind of ease it in nicely.
Yeah. And by the way, you know, I appreciate that was showing some good manager instincts there, kind of letting me down softly before you gave me the real agenda. Okay. So now Christina, I know you had some questions about audio engineering, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I did.
And I'll even answer a question if you happen to want to throw a bone the old guy's way. But before we do that, Christina, okay, I want to show you something here. Behind Mr. Lilac there, the handsome Joe Lilac, is our Renman idea board. Can you go up there and can you see what it says up there?
Well, my video is a little delayed, so I think you may have to tell me.
Let me hum it to you. I will never, ever, ever be late to class again, ever. You have to write that 100 times now before we let you talk and ask a question.
Oh, my goodness.
All right. Okay, I've called you out in class. I'm just having some fun with you, Christina. All right, now, on a serious note, I'm glad to have you, number one, and glad to see your phone is back on. You wanted to be an audio engineer. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I actually, I began as on the creative track, so I was more on a composition level, and I was trying to do the whole composing thing. And I stumbled into technology, and I started looking more into live sound and sound recording. And I don't know, I've just been really passionate about it. I've been doing my homework assignments, which are these mixes that I've been doing with FAU bands, and it's been incredible. I've just been mixing all of our record labels school bands, and I don't know, it's nothing else to me. It's something I'm really, really passionate about now.
You know, it's interesting because I talked a little bit earlier that there was a great, this week they had a whole big piece on the Women in Music 2012. And for years, the music business was kind of an old boys club, and I think that when you talk about touring type of things and studio things, I think that's particularly true. I don't see a lot of great women engineers out there. So I love the fact that you're interested. Does it bother you that it's been kind of a little always old boys club? Is that intimidating, or you just don't give a shit, I bet?
I mean, personally, I get a lot of crap here, honestly, to be brash. I get a lot of, talk here because I am one of the few engineers that are studying. But I really don't care. I mean, I know it's hard to get into the industry, especially being a woman tech, but I love it. So there's not really anything else that I'd rather do.
All right, great. Well, you know what? That is exactly the right attitude to have, Christina, because you're going to get a million people that tell you why you can't do something in the music business. And it's not just the music business, frankly. I talk about the music business. All the stuff that I've learned over the years would apply if I was running a donut shop. You got to be able to sit there and set your sights on where you want to go and do it. So luckily for you, Christina, we have a certified professional audio engineer in our midst today. His name is Darren LeGros. Darren, show your mug there, would you? Don't be so...
Christina,
there he is.
how you doing?
Now, you'll notice, Christina, it's a little dark over there. And I'm sure you know that most audio engineers like to work in the dark. Why is that?
Well, personally, I feel I don't know, just me personally, lights distract me. And I feel if I'm in the dark, I can just channel everything a lot easier. I can hear the sounds a lot better. And I don't know, it feels like everything is just on one plane.
Okay, I'll buy that. How about you, LeGros?
Oh, I usually have to stay in the side wings.
We want to see it, Darren. Come on.
I have to stay in the sidelines, so it's always dark out there. We're usually not the guys in the center of the stage where all the lights usually focused. So.
All right, now do you have any questions for Darren LeGros? I will say this, Darren is being modest, although I will tell you, I've stood on the side of the stage at Incubus shows, and he runs a very tidy shop over there at his mixing board, I'll have you know, and he runs a very tidy shop here at RenmanMB. So anyway, enough with me. You talk to Darren. You got some questions for him?
Yeah, well, I'd like to say huge fan. I'm a huge Incubus fan, and the sound, I don't even know how you mix it with all the things that they do, but it's incredible.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
They're a good band to work with.
Well, I'm sorry?
They're a great brand to work with for that because they make good sounds.
Yeah, I could imagine. So my first question is, how exactly is working with Incubus different than working with other bands, different genres maybe?
Well, Incubus is one of the bands that I will always work for. They're some of the nicest people, I think we got to attribute some of this to Ren. Over the years, he's molded them into some decent human beings as well as a great band. A lot of the bands that are out there, half of what you're doing is spending time just making them feel, confident in themselves and feeling comfortable. They're complaining, they're finding something to complain about or whatever. And the guys in Incubus, when I have a conversation with them, Brandon or something at dinner, it's not about, this is terrible, that. It's usually about, what's going on in the news or, something. So you get I got a relationship with them where it's casual and friendly. Unlike some other bands I used to work for, where it's if the band member comes in the room, you're not really supposed to talk to them unless they talk to you, and a little diva-esque.
Yeah, I've kind of enjoyed that myself.
Now, let me say this. Darren works really closely with the band. There's a couple different forms of audio engineer. Darren, why don't you speak to that? And turn around a light over there so we can see these handsome guys. Would you there, Skylar? Thank you.
Skylar's got me on camera
there
now.
Now we're talking. See, this is a professional organization we got here. I am really the guy that's holding it back, I think. Go ahead, Darren.
Well, I do a few things for the band. My original job was just their monitor engineer for touring. So, I'd spent a good amount of time with them in the studio and, rehearsing and working with them for the road. Then once I got to know the guys and they trusted that I kind of knew what I was doing, they actually had asked me to start mixing some of their live recordings. We would do an official bootleg, for lack of a better term. And so I ended up doing a lot of studio work for them there. So when I was home and we weren't on the road any longer, I was able to continue being a sound engineer in that department, which isn't a normal thing in the industry. Most of the time people kind of pick their job and they stay with it. They don't really branch out into, different things in the industry. But it's, and then I got the opportunity to mix the HQ DVD, which was a lot of fun. I got to do, surround sound for the first time, which was really kind of a trip when you've been mixing in stereo to throw, 4 more speakers into the equation. And, doing the record release, that was another, learning experience. But I think they sounded pretty good after, everything was said and done for the HQ. But it's a good thing to try and stay versatile and stay up with technology. Try and make sure you know how to run Pro Tools, even if you're going to be a live sound engineer, because that's starting to incorporate itself a lot into the live industry as well. And it's kept me busy.
Talk about what you're doing here, Darren. Speaking of learning some new tricks, and this is important for you too, Christina. You can never learn too many tricks in this business. One of the tough things is being on the road, Darren. Is it not?
Yeah, it is.
Easier when you're young, like Christina. A little bit tougher as you get a bit older. What are you working on over there now?
Well, as you can tell, I keep looking off to the side every once in a while.
You don't have your lower third up there either.
Yeah, I didn't want to put up the wrong one. Here we go. I got one. I got one for both Joe and I. There we go. Because Joe Lilac is one of our production. That was his thumb on the side there.
Nice thumb.
Yeah, if you're wondering, I'm sitting here doing video stuff, and that doesn't really seem like an audio thing. But I'm trying to stay, up with the industry. And as much as I really did enjoy touring for many, many years, I have a family now. I'm married, and I've got a puppy at home who demands quite a bit of attention. And as much as I really did love touring, sleeping in a moving vehicle for most of your life is not necessarily something I want to continue to do. And I do enjoy spending time at home with my family. So Ren started this show, which you're, watching right now. Needed a technical director, somebody who could do audio and video. I had very little to no experience in video, but I had tons of experience in audio. So, he hired me right away. But I've quickly, kind of tried to learn all of these new tricks. We've got this really incredible piece of machinery called the TriCaster that lets us do the show that we're doing now. And since we have the occasional musical guest and there's quite a bit of audio involved in video as well, it's sort of been a natural transition. And hopefully it keeps me from having to tour for the rest of my life.
We need to tour enough to keep the bills paid.
Yeah, as long as tour with any other bands. Stay loyal to my guys in Incubus.
Okay, Christina, you got another question, then we're going to let you go back to work in your dark world of great music.
I know, right? In my dark little world.
Yeah.
Actually I do. One of my questions was, what exactly is your favorite mixing EQs to use for, either when you're mixing the album or live sound? What are your favorite kind of EQs to use?
Do you use a lot of plugins, or are you familiar with plugins?
Yes, I am.
I use Waves. I'll use the Waves package. They're a great company, and granted, you know, their software is not cheap, but there's a reason why, and it's probably the best sounding stuff out there. I'll use there's an SSL emulation plugin that I usually just kind of default on a channel strip to. And then after that, I'll dig in with some more specialized EQs. There's some of the, you know, Renaissance EQs, the hybrid EQs. There's lots of that kind of stuff that's available in the Waves package. But nowadays, you know, even the baseline Pro Tools system or Logic or any of the DAWs that are out there, they come with a good, you know, a handful of good EQs and compressors and, you know, all kinds of plugins and outboard gear. And, you know, my philosophy is as long as it works, you know, you can make it sound good. You know, whether it's $10,000 compressor or a, you know, $50 compressor, if it's a good song that's being played through it, it you know, shouldn't really matter unless you're really, really bad at what you do and you make it so they can't hear it. So, you know, as long as it's audible and you got some good material to work with, I wouldn't, you know, there's not going to be something out there that's going to change it and now you're a professional because you own one EQ or another.
All right, Christina, did that help you out at all?
That really did. This was amazing. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Hey, let me get one final question for you, Christina. Are you ever going to be late to class here again at RenmanMB?
Oh my God, no, never. Never, ever.
Perfect, okay. Hey,
I've
Christina,
learned
it
my
was
lesson.
great talking to you. You know what? Keep in touch. Send me, you know how to find us, you know, Darren as well. Keep us posted on how you're doing out there. I like to do a little follow-ups on our growing legion of the next wave of music industry professionals. And I'm not kidding when I say that lots of the folks watching here today, some of the folks are going to help go on and help shape this new music business. And some of the old guys like me are going to hand the torch to you. And I'm confident that you'll do well with it. So thanks for joining us. And we'll talk to you again soon, I hope.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. All righty. Nice job there, Dee, and Joe over there in the corner. Hey, look who joined us, Mark Faraci, just up after working graveyard last night. Dude, I've been working the graveyard my whole freaking career, man, all right? Faraci, there was another chance for you to win a T-shirt, but you're late, okay? Ask Christina how that goes, huh? All right, anyway, we've got one more segment with my good friend, Mr. Tom Corson, who was a great interview. I'll say it again. I'm so lucky to have friends out there like Tom and all the guests that have been on the show who have something to say, have some experience to share, and more importantly, are willing to take the time to do it. I can assure you that most of the folks we have here have better things to do than come in and sit down and chat with us, but they've taken the time to do it, and it means a lot to me, and I hope it means something to you folks. Anyway, our last little bit, we kind of touch on the future of the business and where things are going and some of the signs that we're seeing out there. And I think in general, both Mr. Corson and I are feeling optimistic about where the business is going, and very optimistic that there are folks like you out there that are learning and ready to take the torch. So let's play this last segment, then we'll come back and wrap it up. Tom Corson, my good friend, President and CEO of RCA Records. More, looking toward the future of the business. A couple of weeks ago, Taylor Swift did $1.2 million out of the box. She's obviously become a pop act. Hard to consider her just a country act, and they were everywhere. Flip side of that, Mumford & Sons. Not exactly on paper something, God love them, I wouldn't have bet that would have been as big as it was given just the kind of nature of it, right? And yet both of those records did numbers that would have been somewhat familiar back in the good old days, if you will. Does that kind of record selling, and particularly because one's pop and one's more, call it, left of center, does that give you a little bit of hope for the record selling market? Are we getting to a place where maybe now everybody's kind of settling into this new business a bit, or is it just an anomaly?
No, it's not an anomaly, but it's not. Obviously, we'd like it to be much more frequent than it has been. But there's another aspect of that. I'd like to kind of flip it on you a little bit. But what it does say, when you have a great artist and you really understand understand where your audience is and you deliver high quality music, you have a biggest chance for success. And you set it up intelligently and patiently, and you're not running to make a quarter or a year, which is, any business has that issue from time to time, and that you have the patience and the wherewithal to get it done. So it's there, and we have our own wins. Pink did very well out of the box and continues to sell, and a number of others. So I'm not here to toot our own horn, but that's
Please
just the
feel
way
free,
it
though.
is.
It's a promotion.
But thank you very much.
Yes.
But the when you get into it, there's also this is not a purely transactional model anymore. In other words, this is not just about sales. It's about Pandora and streaming and listening. It's about Spotify. It's about Deezer internationally. And so when you talk about all the kind of various revenue streams and products that are out there for people to use and consume music, that's what really moves the needle. And one aspect that I found fascinating with the Mumford thing, because Taylor didn't have the same effect, is that every song on their album for about 3 or 4 weeks running was in the top 30 or 40 songs played on Spotify. I mean, it was staggering. Not only are people buying 500,000 albums first week, but they're owning Spotify for several weeks. That's a very fascinating trend. So it shows you there's the transactional model where people actually put their money down for a product, and then there's the streaming model, the subscription model. That's and it's working in both areas. Whereas Taylor, her single streamed at very high level on the streaming services, but not too many of the other tracks.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the streaming services, because 5-6 years ago, maybe not even that long, the common wisdom was, if we let them stream, if we give it to them for free, they'll never buy the record. Yeah. When in fact we're seeing lots of these indie artists, the Mac Millers and some of these kind of EDM artists, that are giving it away and actually selling music. It brings to mind an old thought that used to go through my head all the time, which if it isn't worth stealing, it's not worth buying. Right. How do you guys view now, from both the financial and just the big picture point of view of promotion, these streaming services like Spotify and Pandora, and are you guys willing to work with them to develop their business model?
Well, we're already working with them. When we launched, Christina's album, there's a homepage takeover on Spotify, and so we're well in bed with these guys. Notwithstanding the business issues, but in terms of we've crossed that threshold a long time ago. About if it's good, it'll be good for music. We got to be open to all models, and we've got to help them develop it. And hopefully the business side of it will work out. But a thing that people don't realize is, and they don't really think of it this way, is YouTube's the biggest streaming service in the world. Just happens to have videos on it too. Yeah. And but people are playlisting and sharing and moving stuff around and making their own lyric videos and cats playing piano with our artist music behind it, and that's a very alive and successful business model. So from that standpoint, if you can't beat them, join them. We weren't able to beat them, so we got to join them, and that's the future of where we're going here. It is about streaming, and it is about all you can eat. And sadly, I think that we're going to find it more difficult to transact, and actually to sell bits of content.
It's funny. Our friend Mark Geiger was at a conference, and I was going through some news articles, which we go through in our broadcast. And Geiger, in his own modest way, predicted that there would be billions of people streaming, the same way there are billions of people on ISP. I tend to, while I won't share all his unbridled enthusiasm about the pace of it, I actually think that's where it's going. I use myself as an example. I love music. Every time I get on a plane, everybody's got music, from old guys to young guys, whatever it is. And my gut tells me that the more people that are listening to music, the better it is for the music business. And while the record business might have morphed, I saw in one of the Billboard articles, you and your partner at RCA are looking to turn RCA into a music company. Yeah. More so than a record company, where everybody was very proud about being a record, but it's now really about the music business, isn't it?
Yeah, correct. And so the sooner you get there, and I think, to be fair, I think most labels are there to some degree, and if they're not, they will be shortly. But you have to kind of have a circular discussion and circular model, and realize that you're right. The more music that's being used, the better. There will be a business model, because where there's a need, there will be a business put there. Yeah. And that's being created, and we've been chasing our tails long enough. But it feels like we might kind of be at the bottom here of our pain cycle. Yeah. And that we're about to really kind of get some traction here. And I'm not saying we're going to have a hockey stick, explosion, but I think it might just stabilize things and make everything a little bit more predictable. But the one thing we can be sure of, in 12 to 18 months, some of these services will be suffering, and you can think of a number of them that no longer exist that were very relevant 3 or 4 years ago, and something will come in and disrupt it. So we just have to be quick on our feet and light and ready for the ball to be thrown to us, because that's what's going to happen.
I think that's the moral of the story, folks. You have to have your bags packed and be ready to go at a moment's notice. If you're not on the train, somebody else is going to. 2 more questions, then I'll let you get out of here. Every day I sit here, and having had a wonderful career in the music business, I find myself calculating what part of my experience in the past is relevant today going forward. Do you go through the same process?
Yeah, and you know, if you don't learn things from the past, then you're going to make the same mistakes, right? And sometimes we do, but you know, no one's perfect. But yeah, you know, it's great to reflect, because the other side of it is you can get up your own backside by sitting there and trying to predict the future. And the truth is, you look at some of our most successful entrepreneurs, and they aren't able to repeat themselves. You know, they had one great idea or an idea and a half, and they don't have 2 or 3 more of them. And so, you know, it is just kind of sticking with your fundamentals, and you know, I've been in businesses and been in moments even within RCA where we get a little bit away from our fundamentals and we try to be geniuses. And the truth is, you know, it's not being conservative, but stick with what works, and then build your ideas around your fundamentals, and you're generally going to be successful.
I think it's good advice. One final question, since we were talking about predicting the future. Give me your assessment of the business going forward. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we'll probably be done, but somebody will be, you know, taking over the torch. Where do you see it going in the next 5, 10 years? I
think it's still always about great artists and great music, you know, and then you have to have enlightened and open people in the companies or in management or in every aspect of it that are good shepherds. You know, I mean, I would like to think that our legacy, or certainly my legacy, is that you know, I was one of the guys that helped get the business through the last 10, 12 years, and that it protected a great institution and actually evolved it to a point where it was much more in line with artists and much more in line with consumers and much less seen as the big bad boys, the biggest gangsters, as a guy called, you know, in the music business. And you know, and that we became sort of a more enlightened industry in a sense, and we're more aligned with technology. We were more aligned with, and we're more aligned than ever. Music is used, I mean, think of all the things that artists would never do 15, 20 years ago. Put music in commercials, align with brands, you know, all that stuff. Wear things, do things, consume things, have their own vodka lines, have their own clothing lines. I mean, that was for people that were past it and couldn't make money or couldn't tour anymore. And you know, and now it's just it's a fantastic thing, because it's real. You know, and not that all that other stuff isn't worth preserving, and I applaud artists that don't necessarily want to partake in what's evolved into, you know, a kind of smorgasbord of stuff you can do. But I think that's the beauty of it, because I think it's more honest.
Good stuff from my friend Tom Corson. Question for you: how come sound guys only count to 2? Do we have a buzzer? How come sound guys only count to 2? Nice. Because on 3, you lift. Rim shot, please. See, it worked. We're just freaking trying to have a little fun here, folks. You know, we're getting more tricks every day. We'll have to do another segment one day on behind the scenes. Actually, the G-rated version of behind the scenes here at Renman Live. I'll just say this, you know, Darren LeGros, who we spoke to earlier, might be the cheapest guy on the planet besides me, but I've been trying to spend money on gear here for the whole summer, trying to get new stuff, and Darren's always counseling me to do it a little bit better. Maybe we can do this and maybe we do that. And anyway, but I think I finally got him over the hump, because we bought Darren a brand new piece of freaking equipment, some badass mixing board over there that he's having a lot of fun with. So anyway, there you have it. All right, folks, I want to thank you for joining us here on Renman Live, our little music webcast, our little conversation about the music business. Sure is fun having you, but you know, it wouldn't be the worst thing if we had a few more folks here every week. I love a big party, and I see we got some stragglers here. Kevin Martin, where the fuck have you been, man? You're showing up here late. But next time you'll know to be here on Friday. Speaking of Friday, actually, let's talk about Thursday for a minute. Every Thursday at 1:30, pretty much, unless I'm playing in a golf tournament, I've been doing a little Google Hangout with my good friend, Mr. Jay Sider. Jay is a refugee from the music business in the strictest sense. He started an app called BandPage, which has been connected with Facebook for a long time. He's branching out from there, but it's a great tool for musicians and bands that are trying to promote themselves around Facebook and other places. We've gotten friendly through this web show and so forth, and he's a great guy. So every Thursday, we do this thing called the Google Hangout at 1:30. We'll post a link up there later. For some of you folks that are used to front cabin here at Renman Live, you know, for all the smart folks at Google and all the money they have, I'll say, you know, Jay and I are a lot of fun, but they could do a little bit of upgrading on the Hangout if you ask me. But we have a lot of fun there at any rate. So if you want to join us tomorrow, you can ask us some questions. You'll put your video up there. You can be part of the act. On Friday, my friend Jay Sire is going to be joining us right here at Renman Live, talking about BandPage, showing us around BandPage, talking about all the great things that they're doing up there in San Francisco. He's a great guy, a lot of fun, and I hope you'll join us for that. That's our artist tool section. And on Friday, again, we're going to do another Ask Renman segment with our member, John Lee, who was palling around here a little bit earlier. Maybe he's gone. Anyway, John's a musician himself. He's got some ideas about music publishing and how artists, young artists, independent artists, can make some money while they're making music. So I'm interested to hear what he has to say on that. So anyway, folks, I want to thank you for joining us. We'll see you on Friday morning. This is RenmanMusicandBusiness.com. My name's Steve Rennie. I'm the Renman. This is Renman Live, and we are out of here. See ya.